And tonight we're going to have a little bit of a different rearrangement. Our good friend Ted Goodman is going to take over for the beginning of the show and give you his observations and take some of your questions on today's monumentous. I don't know if they're calling it a historic day because the first president was arraigned for a crime. I would say it's a day of ignominy. It's a day in which America should be embarrassed that its criminal justice system has become no better than a banana republic, or if you want to get really serious, a fascist state. Today we saw the current regime prosecute the leader of the prior regime and the regime that threatens to be in charge in a year and a half. At this present time, as this all unfolds, Donald J. Trump leads the Republican field by he basically is lapping the Republican field. He's winning it by 30 to 40%. There's a little bit of testing that's been done since this most recent attack on him took place. He's actually gained points in the Republican primary. In fact, the Democrat activity in constantly leveling false indictments against him has probably been the worst strategy from the point of view of Donald Trump's Republican opponents. They should hate this darn thing. I mean, since they started, he's kind of wiped them out. Now, the question in the general election is, of course, their hope. They realize, the Democrats that is do, that if they continue to torture him, he may win the Republican primary. They feel they'll wound him enough so he'll lose the general election. So far, that hasn't worked either, because so far, since they've been indicting him on false charges, he's gained also on Biden. And in this recent poll, he's ahead of Biden by 6%. So it's early. My suspicion is that the fairly large number this time of people observing, oh, well, this case is a little more serious, and this case that, and this case this, it may turn into some degree of damage, but it'll be overcome. It'll be overcome as the injustice of this case, the stupidity of this case, and the unfairness of this case compared to the things that Hillary Clinton was allowed to get away with, that Biden is being allowed to get away with, that Bill Clinton got away with. You just can't pick out one president and say, oh, other presidents can do 5 times or 10 times what you did. But if you do it, we're going to indict you, put you in prison, and try to lock you up for the rest of your life. It just doesn't work that way in America. The law is not a rigid game of gotcha. The law is an exercise of equity and justice. What that means is the law has to live up to what Jack Smith said, and he must have said it facetiously given where it's coming from, that everyone in America under the law is treated the same. If Donald Trump is to be treated the same as, for example, Hillary Clinton, this case should be dismissed, right? Hillary blew away 33,000 emails. She destroyed documents like these. Trump is alleged to have misplaced them, and they presently exist. They haven't been destroyed. Joe Biden is alleged to have placed documents like this in places that were freely available to enemies of ours, particularly Red China. In fact, thousands of documents like this were placed almost as if they were gifts to Red China. Chinatown, 2 institutes owned by China, and then put next to his car where a Chinese spy or an associate of a Chinese spy passed by every day. He might as well have sent them to China by express mail. Biden has actually put these documents in clear and present danger, whereas Trump did not. You might argue they were not handled as they should be, but they weren't handled in a way that there's any suggestion that they would fall into the hands of our enemies, or that they did, or that they could. We don't exactly have a large number of red Chinese walking around Mar-a-Lago. We do have a large number of red Chinese walking around the institutes owned by Red China. And those documents were placed there. who knows how many red Chinese are in Chinatown. He actually put them in Chinatown. You might as well have sent them to Beijing, Joe. I mean, it's astounding that they would even go with this case. It shows you what chutzpah they have. And it's astounding that the American press doesn't realize what hypocrites the Democrats are and how disloyal they are to the United States of America. But when we come back on, we'll analyze for you the most recent revelation.
All right, folks, take a look right there. There's Bedminster, New Jersey, where the former President 45 is scheduled to make an appearance. He's going to head to that podium right there in the middle. A crowd is gathered. They're waiting to hear his first remarks after, well, kind of first remarks because he did stop at the Versailles Cafe in Miami. Thanks for joining us. I'm taking over for the mayor as he does this live interview with our friend Eric Bolling on Newsmax. And of course, he's going to go live on Newsmax with Eric Bolling. We're just minutes away from President Trump giving comments from Bedminster in New Jersey. Of course, today the president was arraigned in federal court in the Southern District of Florida. This afternoon, the president traveled presumably from Palm Beach down to Miami, which is about an hour drive, probably give or take. Of course, then he made his way by plane to his home in the great state of New Jersey, Bedminster, where he is expected to give some remarks here in just a few minutes. So we want to thank you for joining us. Of course, a very historic day. Mike, why don't we zoom in a little bit more? Why don't we zoom in here a little bit? What we have to do here is why don't you zoom in? Yeah, bring that in a little bit there. Keep it coming. So what we have to do here, we wanted to make sure we're consistent with our live stream. So we wanted to go live tonight. But of course, the mayor is going live also with Newsmax. He's leading coverage with Eric Bolling, going into President Trump's remarks on what, of course, is a historic day for all the wrong reasons. So you're going to see me talk very quietly as to not interfere with the mayor's interview, which is happening now live on Newsmax. So as we talk, please keep in mind tonight, this is a historic day, but not for the reasons that many in the media are claiming. This isn't a historic day because it was the first time a former president has been indicted, federally indicted. It's a historic night, an historic day because it's the day we've crossed the Rubicon. These people are so selfish. They're such nihilists that they're willing to destroy this country just to get Trump, just to, show others that they're capable of doing it. I'm not even sure what the actual goal is beyond holding on to power and control of this country through the permanent Washington political class. So while many in the media say it's historic because it's the first day a former president's been federally indicted, no. It's historic because it's the day we may look back on and say, yes, this was instrumental in what was a dark period of time. So, of course, again, we're live on the mayor is live on Newsmax with Eric Bolling, leading coverage going into President Trump's remarks live from his residence in Bedminster, New Jersey. Please, now I'm going to use this time to plug Mayor Rudy Giuliani and everywhere you can catch our live stream. Of course, you can watch it on Twitter, YouTube, Getter, Rumble, Twitch, every night, 8 p.m. Eastern. And now we're going to also welcome our Getter audience here. So we're gonna go live here. Make sure we have our Getter family with us as well. So thank you for joining us, Getter. And again, if you'll notice, Mike, if you don't mind moving the camera just a little bit up. Okay. So again, you're getting an interesting angle here. You're getting me while the mayor goes on with Eric Bowling of Newsmax. Eric's doing live coverage tonight during the 8 p.m. hour. And of course, they're going to be covering the president's speech. We will do the same thing here. Maybe we'll put it on audio once the president starts speaking. And if you want to stay with us, you can get live reaction of Mayor Giuliani to the president's remarks. Again, thanks for joining us. You're stuck with me for the next few minutes. And the reason we're doing this is so that Mayor Giuliani can join Eric Bowling live on Newsmax. So the mayor right now is over on Newsmax with Eric Bowling. So if you're watching on your phone or if you're watching us on your computer, go put Newsmax up on the television. Put on the mayor. You'll see the mayor here in just a minute. And of course, the president is returning from Florida this evening, where he went through the arraignment process in the Southern District of Florida at a federal courthouse in Miami, where large crowds met the mayor. And of course, one thing I noticed is that one second. Oh, just kind of keep an eye on. Can you make sure the phone's okay? Give me 1 second, folks. Thank you. Live television. So of course, the mayor running the president, my apologies. Of course, President Trump is not running late. If anything, he's running early, right? So again, what we saw today was historic, but not for the reasons many of the media are saying, right? Today was a day where the permanent Washington political class and all those who enable what we can call really a criminal racket in the nation's capital have decided that they're gonna stop Trump no matter what, and they'll do whatever it takes. They'll do whatever it takes to take him down. And of course, it's just absolutely depressing. It's wrong, and it's made me think long and hard, right, about the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. And it's really made me really think about what percentage of the country do we feel we'll see through this sham prosecution. Of course, we have a very lively office tonight. The mayor is live on Newsmax as we speak. And we're staying live with you here. So please, if you would, consider subscribing to Mayor Rudy Giuliani, CS.com. And of course, please consider subscribing to our Twitter account. Your contribution to our Twitter account at just $10 a month, obviously, it grants you exclusive access to video, audio content, pictures, reactions, just special content, right? But more importantly, you're supporting our fight. You're supporting what the mayor and our team are doing each and every day. You're supporting the mayor's fight for the truth, to uncover the truth, expose the liars, and get to the bottom of the issues that matter. we're living in some very concerning times in this country's history. I think we all know that now. And for a long time, we said it, things were happening, and it wasn't good. But they've crossed the Rubicon. They indicted a former president over a document dispute, and now they arraigned him today. This should concern each and every one of us, even if you're not a supporter of President Trump, right? This should concern you. And look, all that we're asking is that you subscribe to our Twitter account, consider supporting us through rudygiulianics.com. Of course, keep watching us here. Tell your friends. Give our friends at Kirk Elliott, PhD, a call. And really, your support, I'm not going to sell it as, look, give us a few bucks and you'll get, some exclusive video content. No, the selling point is you're going to have skin in the game. You're going to support the most important of missions, the most important of causes at this juncture in our history. So please head over to the mayor's Twitter account, hit that subscribe button, and for just 33 cents a day, you'll be entitled to exclusive content and you'll be supporting the mayor and everything he's been doing for years and really decades and really his entire professional life, right? We're talking about the guy who took down the mafia in New York, right? We're talking about the guy who comforted the nation following the terrorist attacks of September 11th. We're talking about the mayor who took the crime rate in New York City and cut it down sixfold. He cleaned up the streets in New York. He rooted out the corruption. He made Times Square a destination for, when Mayor Giuliani entered office, Times Square was full of crack addicts, whorehouses, dirty video stores. It was just disgusting. By the time he left, it was filled with Midwesterners going to Red Lobster. So I apologize. At times, I got to be quiet here. And just like that, the mayor is wrapping up his interview. So we're going to go back to him here. So I wanted to thank you for bearing with me here. And we're going to now get this back to the mayor. And I want to thank you. We want to thank you. Those of you that have been with us from the start. And those of you who have stuck with us, right? Since we started doing this in October. Each and every night. We've never missed a night. And we weren't going to miss tonight. But we also wanted to ensure. Sorry. I just want to be quiet at times to make sure I'm not interfering with his interview. He's wrapping up with Eric Bowling right now on Newsmax. And as soon as he's done, we're going to turn that camera around and go back on the mayor. So let us know in the comments what you think of our show and how we can improve it. The mayor and I started this in October, and neither of us have a lick. Well, I'm not going to speak for him. I don't have a lick of tech experience or technical background when it comes to computers and live streams. And I think the mayor had limited knowledge of this stuff. But when I met with him in October and just, hearing everything he had to say on a variety of topics, I told him, Mayor, we got to be doing this every night. You have so much to say on so many issues. Let's just start going live. And so we just started doing it. And here we are 6 months later, continuing to do this. So on that note, all right. And on that note, we're going to bring this back to the mayor. So we want to thank you for bearing with me or stuck with me for a few minutes. And now we're going to flip that camera around. Hey, Mike? We're going to flip that camera around and you're going to go back to what you came here to see. And that's Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
There I am. I think I even see me in the camera. Maybe not quite centered, but we're working on it. Maybe a little this way. All right. I think we're good. I was just on with our friend Eric Bowling, You know, he's our he's our competitor at this hour, but he's also a very close friend. And in this year and next year, we have no competitors. We just have friends or enemies. And Eric's a friend. We all have to stick together in this effort to save America. To save, in this particular case, we're fighting for the restoration of the criminal justice system that has been the glory of the world, really, the American criminal justice system that has now been turned into a more of a foreign criminal justice system where you prosecute your enemies. You win, you put your enemies in jail. Boy, sure sounds like a communist country to me, doesn't it? And it is a communist country when it operates that way, or a fascist country, or whatever else you would like in terms of a country that does not respect the rule of law, precisely the opposite of what we have been throughout our existence, a country ruled by laws, not men. And this is an incredible invasion of our rights. But haven't they been being trashed basically one after another? Just right from the beginning of the pandemic, the Democrats started on a mission to destroy our civil rights, which is part of the effort to make us communists. They learned that from Saul Alinsky. They practice it. They follow it. They used it as an excuse to take our right of freedom of religion away. They basically are trying to take our children away from us so that the state determines what your child will be like, how they will be educated, when they'll be taught about sex, whether they can or cannot keep their private sexual organs. You don't get a choice in that. They do, and the child does, but the child is not really capable of granting consent. The child is 10 or 11 or 12 or 13. You know, if the child were a girl and had sex, even consensual at that age, it's statutory rape. Why? Because they're incapable of consent. But it's okay if they have their genitals chopped off. Make any sense to you? Of course not. This is a very, very much another one of the 10 or 12 major objectives of the Communist Party in taking over a country. Destroy its morale, destroy its sexuality. When I say morale, I should have said morality, but morale also. And they are well on their way to doing it. Now, let's focus, because we didn't quite have the time. It came out late yesterday. Let's focus on the enormity of this new development, because this has come very, very quickly. And the Democrats, I wouldn't put it past them, have timed this whole charade with Donald Trump so that you don't get the impact of the FBI report, the FBI FD 1023, that was released earlier this week. And then really, it was almost as if it contained two bombshells. The first bombshell blew up right at the beginning when it turned out that there is a official FBI report, a report that is designed for informants of unquestioned integrity and reliability, the FD 1023, or this report indicated from an informant of proven prior reliability that the Bidens, according to the underlying informant, were given two bribes, one for Hunter, one for Joe, of $5 million each, in order to assist the Burisma company. And the purpose of the assistance was to have the indictment against the Burisma company dismissed by the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian President Poroshenko, as well as the dismissal of the prosecutor, Shokin, who had that case. That's all, and has been since June of 2020, written down in an FBI 1023, which has been withheld from everyone, despite the fact that it would have completely put the lie to the impeachment proceeding. The head of the FBI and the head of the Justice Department deemed it wise to not tell anybody about it, even though it would have completely exonerated Trump. Well, I mean, that gets you pretty close to being a traitor, doesn't it? Certainly gets you in the category of being an exceedingly dishonest piece of scum, doesn't it? There you are sitting there with evidence that can, number one, clear him, and number two, explain what he was doing and why he was doing it, and you withhold it. But it isn't just that. The sequence tells you everything you need to know about Wray, Barr, the FBI, and the DOJ as it presently exists. When the document first appeared, or Senators Grassley, Johnson, and Congressman Coomer first heard of it, the FBI denied the existence of any such document. So they continued their 2 to 2.5 years of lying directly to Congress. They then admitted that it existed, but it didn't say what the congressman said it said. Then it didn't say exactly what the congressman thought it said. Finally, they agreed that it said it, but they didn't want to show it to them for fear of revealing sources and methods. Then they showed it to them and gave a leaked statement saying it was somewhat ambiguous. And then the congressman came out, several of them who read it, and said it was the most damning document they had ever read, that it was quite clear that the underlying informant of known reliability made it clear that the Bidens received bribes in order to fix the Burisma case. Now, you want to hear something extraordinary? You'd figure the FBI had done enough to obstruct justice and the committee hearing on 3 different occasions. It didn't happen. There was no document. The document didn't really say that. The document really wasn't complete. All lies. The document, the FD 1023, however, in addition to containing the language that I have repeated to you, had a very significant section that was redacted. Redacted, you remember what redacted is. It's like crossed out, usually in black. You'll see a page like this one. This one's underlined in red. You'll see a page like this one and just pretend that some of those lines are like, there's just black over them, covering them up. Well, this had a lot of black, a lot of stuff being withheld from members of Congress. Members of Congress were kind of angry that this was being withheld from them after all of the shenanigans going on with them. And finally, they found out what was in there. Would you believe that Wray held back from them the fact that after first saying the story wasn't true, then saying there is no document, and then saying the document doesn't say what they say it says, and then saying the document doesn't quite say what they say it says, and then having to produce a document that does say it, the rest of the document points out that a person who is making these statements has 17 tape recordings that back up what I just told you. They were going to keep that information from the committee and from America forever. It was all erased, covered over. Only the FBI would know, so they could bury it and they go to their graves with it. Can you imagine not letting them know that whoever is making these allegations is confident enough to say, I have and will turn over to you 17 recordings, 15 with Hunter Biden and 2 with then Vice President Biden? I mean, while they're pursuing this false, silly, stupid, embarrassing case against Trump, a massive, unbelievably powerful piece of blockbuster evidence is developing with the public, and adding to the criminality of it is the FBI lying about it over and over again, surrounding it with false exculpatory statements, which almost cries out for their prosecution. So now we're going to have to get our hands on this, and we're going to have to see how much of the conversation is reflected in the recording, and the 15 with Hunter and the 2 with Joe during the course of time that Hunter and Joe were collecting their bribe for quashing the case, Burisma case, so that Mykola Zlochevsky, the owner of Burisma, in essence, the boss of Hunter and the person paying Joe Biden the $5 million, so that he could get to keep his illegally obtained company, which was now worth $40 billion. That's what this case and this bribery situation was all about. We have now determined that. I told you that 3 years ago on the Hannity show in John Solomon's column, and then I repeated it again 2 years ago. I'm sorry, 2.5 years ago in a podcast, which I'll show you before we conclude, that lays out this case cold, particularly the case involving Shokin, the dismissal of Shokin, and then the covering up of the case.
Mayor, I don't know if you saw the news the other day. Even on CNN, a legal analyst said that this is preposterous how long the Hunter Biden probe is taking when they just fast track Trump's probe. He said he just can't believe what is the Department of Justice's problem.
Well, I don't know why he's so confused with the Department of Justice problem. It's crooked. The Department of Justice problem is very, very simple. It's dishonest. It's corrupt. The present Attorney General is by far, and without any doubt, the most corrupt in history. He's a judge whose name should be stricken from the rolls of his court because he is a complete embarrassment and dishonest the legal profession. And he's got a son-in-law who's making a fortune helping to encourage children to chop off their genitals. So that's the kind of guy we got as Attorney General. He's kind of Attorney General you would expect a lifetime criminal like Joe Biden to select, and he's protecting Joe Biden, the lifetime criminal. It's a caricature of he's a caricature of an Attorney General, and a real embarrassment.
And of course, stay right here with us. The president is just minutes away from speaking, but stay with us. We'll play the audio of the speech with the mayor's live reaction. So stick right here with us for live coverage as President Trump speaks from Bedminster, New Jersey, on this very historic evening. And again, it's historic for all the wrong reasons. And now would be a good time to remind you to please subscribe to the mayor on Twitter. Go to Twitter, hit that purple subscribe button, and your support of just $10 a month. Really, it's not for the live or the exclusive content, which of course you will get exclusive videos, pictures, audio, reactions, stories, updates from the mayor. Really, what we're selling you here on is to be a part of this fight. The most important of fights, considering the direction of this country.
Well, I should clarify the conflicting statements that I see here in these different newspaper articles as to whether or not I supplied this document or I did not supply this document. I did not supply this document, the one that we would call the 1023. However, so that part is not true. The part that is true is I supplied the material that resulted in finding and creating this document. It was as a result of investigating the material I gave them that they found this document. And the material that I gave them was a significant amount of evidence that Hunter and Joe Biden received large amounts of bribes in order to win for Zlochevsky, the company that he had illegally obtained. And it benefited Zlochevsky to the benefit of $40 billion, in which he paid out well over $100 million in bribes, some of which went to the Bidens. And if we credit the 10 million plus the million a year he was given to Devin Archer and Hunter Biden, which went into the company in which Joe got 1/3 of that, the bribes now are up to somewhere around 16 million. from Burisma. However, I won't close the books until the FBI locates the other witness I gave them that they left high and dry, the chief accountant of Burisma, who claims to have the offshore bank accounts. The FBI had no interest in those offshore bank accounts of Joe Biden because in case they existed, they would incriminate Joe Biden. And the FBI has done everything it can to let Joe Biden go free of these extraordinarily serious crimes, which is something that when this all is said and done, is going to have to figure into the criminal investigation. Some FBI officials are going to have to be prosecuted for this kind of obstruction at the highest levels of our government. And I would say Mr. Wray would have to lead that group. His actions were deliberate, his actions were and are criminal. So that's what lies ahead. That's what lies ahead. I guess the next step is for Congress to be able to show us the exact redacted language that was used by the people saying that the two Bidens received $5 million each. That would be I mean, it's almost anticlimactic to get the exact language. I think that some of it's been quoted, some of it we know, but it's still worth having because it shows how for so long now the press and the Democratic Party has been misleading you time after time after time after time. And the only people who mislead like that are the people who are covering up crimes. And they're covering up a master crime committed by them, which will go down in history as one of the biggest crimes in American history. And that is their fixing of this election. So now we'll take a short break. And we have a word from Kirk Elliott for you. And then we'll be back with the rest of tonight's America's Mayor Live. Faith and family, freedom and finance are four things that we would do anything to protect. I trust the team at Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors, with providing the advice and sound strategies to take advantage of the inflationary pressures, the high interest rates, and the international challenges we face today. The Kirk Elliott team, with over 29 years of experience, shares our values and believes in people over profit. They can help you protect your finances from the big government policies that are out of our control. So what's in our control? The decision to act or not to act is within our control. I encourage you to act. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors today. Start working with a team that will help you protect your retirement assets with gold and silver while sharing your desire to protect your faith, family, and freedom. Call them today, 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, and tell them Rudy sent you. Or simply fill out a request for a free consultation at kirkelliottphd.com/Rudy. Welcome back. I'm going to set up here before we hear the president, who's, I guess, approaching. Is he quite there yet?
The place is packed.
Well, of course it is.
The mic, but
there's no one that draws crowds like President. There's no one who drives crowds away like Biden.
Mayor, President Trump had more people outside the courthouse in Miami today than Biden's ever had at a rally ever.
There are people that are calling me who have analyzed the 2020 election and told me that Trump had more people outside than voted for Biden in 2020. But I didn't want to say anything because I don't want to get canceled, you know. But they said, at least some experts said, that there were more people there than they were able to determine voted for Biden in 2020.
If there are two uncancelable, is that even a word? If there are two uncancelable Americans, it's Donald J. Trump and Mayor Rudolph W.
Oh, I
Giuliani.
didn't know where you were going with uncancelable.
I concur.
Okay. So now I want you to. I just want you to hear how two master criminals talk to each other. You know Poroshenko, the president of Ukraine, who Biden bribed in order to fix the Burisma case, himself received a bribe of $100 million. They don't fool around in Ukraine. That's why they're the most corrupt country in the world, possibly more corrupt than Russia. We just don't know. I'd say probably equal. They're very similar in terms of they don't do anything without the oligarchs getting a fortune. So here's the then president of Ukraine and chief oligarch, and at the time chief crook in Ukraine, talking to Joe Biden, the vice president of the United States and the chief crook in the United States, and they are quite happy at a development in the case in which the Burisma case is going to be fixed. They're on their way to getting there, and Poroshenko is reporting back to his co-criminal Biden.
Yesterday, I met with the general prosecutor Shokin. And despite of the fact that we don't have any corruption charges, we don't have any.
He said, yesterday I met with the chief prosecutor's office, and despite the fact that he had no corruption charges. Now that's very important to remember.
Information about he doing something wrong. I especially asked him, no, it was the day before yesterday. I especially asked him to resign.
Great.
And this is my second step for keeping my promises.
I agree.
Yesterday, I met with the general prosecutor Shokin. And despite of the fact that we don't have any corruption charges, we don't have any information about he doing something wrong, I especially asked him, no, it was the day before yesterday. I especially asked him to resign.
Great.
And this is my second step for keeping my promises.
The promise is the promise that he made in order to get the $1 billion in aid to get rid of Shokin. Now, I don't know if you remember, but when I first brought these charges out 4 years ago, the lying group of anti-American creeps that surround Biden said that Shokin was fired because he was dishonest. Poroshenko is telling Biden directly that there was no corruption charges and that he hadn't done anything dishonest, but as a favor to Biden, he's getting rid of him anyway. He wants to show, what a good guy he is. Now, it turns out that in the interim, things go down much easier for Poroshenko because although Biden forces him to fire Shokin, who was one of his best friends, by the way, he's able to work out first a 50 and then I think $100 million bribe with Zlochevsky, who finds it cheap to get out of it all for about $150 million because he gets to keep $41 billion that he acquired illegally. You see, Zlochevsky, who is the guy who made the deal originally with Biden and is paying off the Bidens, Zlochevsky obtained his company when he was the minister in government, and he gave his company all the leases. He had a partner then, and he had the partner running it. When he came out of government, he went back into his business. He was only a 49% owner, and his partner was a 50% owner. And one night, after leaving a dinner with Mr. Zlochevsky, his partner, Mr. Lisan, drove into a tree and killed himself. What do you think? Let's play detective. What do you think? particularly since he became 100% owner of the $40 billion company.
Just a quick update, Mayor. Just a quick update for our viewers. The president's motorcade is entering the property at Bedminster in New Jersey. So we expect the mayor to be just a few minutes away. If we're still on, if he is to speak before the 9 o'clock hour, we'll stick with it and cover it live.
Oh, I can usually time this because I used to introduce him after all these events, so I can tell you how fast it is that he gets there.
He just all right. Predict this for
So
us.
tell me
Mayor.
where he. Can you show me? Can you show me on paper?
I can.
Show me where he is right now.
Yeah. Let me see if.
Is he in the car still?
Yeah.
Oh, we got a little time. Oh, the car is still driving. He hasn't even gotten out of. If that's him, I doubt that's him. Oh, are they taking him in the back?
That is the here.
Yeah, they're taking him in the side of. That's the room at Bedminster where Ivanka and Jared were married. By the way, that's where their wedding took place, in that room. Well, yeah, you can see it. You can see it showing up. Everybody's got a camera like we have right here. They got their cameras out. The cars are going in all different directions now. I guess
we know how much his supporters love him.
Unless they're doing a fake, there is a car approaching the entrance. The others are going in all different directions.
That could be kind of part of the strategy.
Right? There's Brian Kilmeade, who has done a good job of running down Trump in the last couple of months. Boy, I remember that guy being a very, very loyal supporter. I guess they don't let you stay on Fox if you are. Could we get him off, please?
Yeah. For those asking the mayor, I've handed the mayor a phone.
I'm having a hard time. I didn't think your phone was able to get Brian Kilmeade. I always thought you had one of those loyal phones.
And it's funny that I didn't know Brian Kilmeade. He did the first week after Tucker's ouster, and now he's back on this evening.
Well, I have to say, I listened to him here on and off, and he went through a very bad period with Trump, and he's softening up a little.
I think everyone's realizing, Mayor, better get back on that Trump train, or
well, if he would stand,
if I want to be any.
I wonder what happens if he would stand this and gets a little bump. I wonder if the Atlanta thing goes away, because I mean, it really may be true, although it's hard to believe that by indicting him, they're electing him.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely locking up the prime. I mean, not that I felt. You know how you and I have talked about this for months. I'm not going to speak for you, Mayor. I've never felt that the primary was in doubt. Of course, I know.
I thought there was a point at which before the heavy hand of Mr. Bragg entered into it, I thought there was a doubt when not only did DeSantis have a lead, but that sort of left him vulnerable to the candidates behind DeSantis who might overwhelm DeSantis. It showed a weakness after all these years of dominating the Republican vote. He did go for a period of time where he wasn't. You never know if he's going to get that back, and he sure has.
Of course, Mayor. And we're getting a lot of comments this evening, people talking about the fact that going back to the Joe Biden ongoing scandal, we'll call it, a lot of people commenting that you've been on top of this for years. We remember you, Mayor, 3 years ago talking about this stuff.
I've been on top of this from day one. May I make a totally immodest statement? You probably wouldn't know about any of this if it wasn't for me.
That's absolutely right.
I was the first to reveal the conspiracy with Biden to the terror of the press. I mean, I was condemned, and I gave it originally to Hannity at Fox and John Solomon. Then I gave it to the State Department, and they buried it. Then I decided to start my own podcast so I could memorialize it. After I did a special with OAN and went over to Ukraine and got the key witnesses on record, God forbid, before they died, because they attempted to kill Shokin.
Watch those.
And then I decided to start my own podcast and memorialize them. And I have all the key witnesses on tape in case, God forbid, something happens to them. But basically proving over and over again that Joe Biden took massive bribes to sell out the American people. And of course, for my efforts, I've been attack my. They've stopped me from practicing my profession because they have control. The left wing does of the bar associations. I mean, they've done everything they can to destroy me in the efforts of stopping me. I guess two efforts. One, to stop me. I guess they've realized after a while that they're not, just like they're not going to stop Trump. They'd have to kill me to do that. And so far, they don't seem to be prepared to do that. And number two, I don't think they realize that it just makes me stronger. And since they're guilty of sin and the facts are out there, they're going to lose. Because I never had any doubt that we were going to discover the facts. And now they're coming in fast and furiously. I've gotten any number of calls and letters and congratulating me on being right about everything. And I think we're close to everything now. Maybe a couple more things on J6 I have to turn out to be right about. And a couple more things about the conduct of the election. But other than that, I've been right on every single thing, including details of the bribery schemes of the Bidens. And by the way, the one we're concentrating now on in Ukraine is the tip of the iceberg. It's intermediate money, not big money for the Bidens. China is big money. Russia was probably big money. Russia, we haven't really locked in yet. We will. I mean, we have 70, 80 million locked in. I don't know what you want. We want everything. Okay.
Mayor, of course, President Trump is now approaching the podium at
That was quicker.
Bedminster.
That means he got right out of the car and got right up to speed. He's not taking pictures. Is he stopping to take pictures? Because then we'll be delayed for another 15 minutes.
He's making his way up to the podium. We're going to pick up live coverage audio. Stay with us, please. And if you have a TV, maybe put the speech up on TV, but keep us on your phone, on your laptop, as we watch together. Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
If we don't put that on Newsmax, I'm going to take it and break it.
Well, I don't want to comment on. We love Newsmax. Let's see if I can bring it up here on. Oh, and it's back on AT&T DirecTV.
Well, then let's watch it on AT&T DirecTV.
I got to talk to Chris. It's not on there.
Oh, it's not. But let's put Newsmax on.
I don't have Newsmax.
You didn't pay your bill?
So this is DirecTV. I thought Newsmax settled it. I thought they settled their issue and that they got it on.
They did. They did.
Here's my thought, Mayor. We're not going to put it on until it's just the audio of the president. No one's going to know any better.
I know.
And they're not getting the ratings point.
Oh, and by the way, they're probably going to alter some of the things he said.
Yeah. Well, that's
I know all their people well. I was on there for 20 years. It's a source of great disappointment to see them flip their positions. See Steve Ducey every day try to make anti-Trump arguments. He works so hard at it. You can tell he doesn't believe it, but he works so hard at it.
That's right, Mayor.
And Steve's been around there so long, it's kind of a shame seeing him sucking up that way.
At least his son presses the Biden's press secretary. He's good at that. You gotta respect his son, Peter Ducey.
So yeah, you're speaking.
Oh, Peter Ducey's 100%.
Steve's kid.
Yeah, Steve's kid. Peter Ducey. He's got a lot of goal. That kid. I like it.
I thought Jesse Waters showed a lot of courage last night, bringing out the story involving the taping by Zoloshevsky. They basically didn't cover that story afterwards.
You hear it okay, Mayor?
Sure, I can hear it all the way from New Jersey.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. It's a great honor to have you here. And today we witnessed the most evil and heinous abuse of power in the history of our country. Very sad thing to watch. A corrupt sitting president had his top political opponent arrested on fake and fabricated charges of which he and numerous other presidents would be guilty. Right in the middle of a presidential election in which he's losing very badly. This is called election interference and yet another attempt to rig and steal a presidential election. More importantly, it's a political persecution like something straight out of a fascist or communist nation. This day will go down in infamy, and Joe Biden will forever be remembered as not only the most corrupt president in the history of our country, but perhaps even more importantly, the president who, together with a band of his closest thugs, misfits, and Marxists, tried to destroy American democracy. But they will fail, and we will win bigger and better than ever before. Charging a former president of the United States under the Espionage Act of 1917 wasn't meant for this. An act for a crime so heinous that only the death penalty would do, and threatening me with 400 years in prison for possessing my own presidential papers, which just about every other president has done, is one of the most outrageous and vicious legal theories ever put forward in an American court of law. With a band of his closest thugs, misfits, and Marxists tried to destroy American democracy. It has nothing to do with a former president. But they will fail, and we will win bigger and better than ever before. Charging a former president of the United States under the Espionage Act of 1917
Oh, we got it on here.
wasn't meant for this. An act for a crime so heinous that only the death penalty would
Put it
do,
here.
and threatening me with 400 years in prison for possessing
If
my
I put
own
it right here, get it
presidential
here.
papers, which just about every other president has done, is one of the most outrageous and vicious legal theories ever put forward in an American court of law. The Espionage Act has been used to go after traitors and spies. It has nothing to do with a former president legally keeping his own documents. As president, the law that applies to this case is not the Espionage Act, but very simply the Presidential Records Act, which is not even mentioned in this ridiculous 44-page indictment. Under the Presidential Records Act, which is civil, not criminal, I had every right to have these documents. The crucial legal precedent is laid out in the most important case ever on this subject, known as the Clinton Socks case. You know what that means? After leaving the White House, Bill Clinton kept 79 audio tapes in his sock drawer. They included discussions of U.S. military involvement in Haiti, discussions of U.S. foreign policy, both defense and offense, against Cuba, recordings of President Clinton's conversations with all of the many foreign leaders at the time. Think of that. Sensitive facts about trade negotiations taken from presidential briefings, discussions with the Secretary of State about conflict in Bosnia, and much, much more. Very big stuff. Not only was Bill Clinton never even considered for criminal prosecution based on the tapes he took, but when he was sued for them, he won the case. Judge Amy Berman Jackson's decision states, under the statutory scheme established by the Presidential Records Act, the decision to segregate personal materials from presidential records is made by the president during the president's term and in the president's sole discretion. You're surprised to hear that, aren't you? Any normal administration, even an opposing one, would consider that to be the end, but not the corrupt Biden administration. The Sox decision, as it's known, also states, quote, the National Archives and Records Administration, or NARA, does not have the authority to designate material as presidential records. I don't have the authority. NARA does not have the tapes in question, and NARA lacks any right, duty, or means to seize control of them. This is law. The president enjoys unconstrained authority to make decisions regarding the disposal of documents. That's unconstrained to make that decision. Neither the archivist nor Congress has the authority to veto the president's decision. The Presidential Records Act does not confer any mandatory or even discretionary authority on the archivist to classify records. Under the statute, this responsibility is left solely to the President of the United States. Think of that. That's the decision. Think of that. Now, just think of that. In other words, whatever documents the President decides to take with him, he has the right to do so. It's an absolute right. This is the law. And that is something that people have now seen, and it couldn't be more clear. They ought to drop this case immediately because they're destroying the country. And this is why no other president, even those who kept far more documents than I, has ever been even investigated, let alone charged with a crime. Because the sham indictment put forward by the Biden administration included staged photographs of boxes at Mar-a-Lago, many people have asked me why I had these boxes. Why did you want them? The answer, in addition to having every right under the Presidential Records Act, is that these boxes were containing all types of personal belongings, many, many things, shirts and shoes and everything. As can be seen in the picture where someone, not me, I wonder who it might have been, dumped one of the very neatly arranged boxes all over the floor. They were full of newspapers, press clippings, thousands of pictures, thousands and thousands of White House pictures. The White House photographers, some are with us today. They took so many pictures and we saved all of them, and they were in those boxes. Clothing, memorabilia, and much, much more. I hadn't had a chance to go through all the boxes. It's a long, tedious job, takes a long time, which I was prepared to do, but I have a very busy life. I've had a very busy life. They make it more busy because you're always fighting. And under the Sox decision, there seemed to be no rush. I wasn't in a rush because that decision was a law. The other picture that was so vile, you remember that one? It was angry and corrupt, was the photo staged by the FBI. And those that raided Mar-a-Lago, they were putting documents all over the floor. Remember that famous picture? All over, say confidential, said presidential, said all sorts of things. And it was supposed to be there like it was that way when they raided. It wasn't that way. They put them there, took the picture, and released it illegally to the press. They took my medical records, my passport, my birth certificate, and apologized. They even brought a safecracker. This is a professional safecracker they brought into Mar-a-Lago. And they broke into my safe, and you know what they found? Nothing. There was nothing there. Nothing there. Like zero. According to the Presidential Records Act, which was a big deal, I was supposed to negotiate with NARA, which is exactly what I was doing until Mar-a-Lago was raided by gun-toting FBI agents. I have security tapes of it. I gave them security tapes of everything. In a flagrant violation of the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, which protects the right against unreasonable search and seizure. And Sebastian, you covered very well, I must say. Very well. I'm not the one who thinks I'm above the law. I'm the one that followed the law. I'm the only one. It's Joe Biden and his corrupt Department of Injustice who think they are above the law. Never before have the two standards of justice in our country been more starkly revealed. Joe Biden had troves of classified documents from his time as vice president and even as a senator, which was completely and totally illegal. In fact, other senators heard about it. Dick Durbin heard about it. You have to see his response. There's no way that's totally illegal. Took him as a senator out of a skiff. They were shocked when they found out. They actually thought it was impossible to do. Biden sent 1,850 boxes to the University of Delaware, making the search very, very difficult for anybody. And he refuses to give them up and he refuses to let people even look at them. And then they say how he's behaving so nicely. Many of Biden's classified documents were in Chinatown, D.C., Chinatown, which is shocking considering his family receives so much money from China. I wonder how many times the friends of ours from China review those documents. Chinatown, D.C. Others were unsecured at his so-called Penn Biden Center in Washington, which paid Biden approximately $1 million a year. The money supposedly coming from China, and still other classified documents were strewn all over his garage floor, where his now famous Corvette is stored. He's so proud of that car. There was no security, and the door was left open most of the time. It was open. All of those classified documents, all of those documents strewn all over the floor, piled up like junk. Unlike me, who had absolute declassification authority as president, Joe Biden as vice president had no authority to declassify and no right to possess the documents. He had no right. Instead of falling under the Presidential Records Act, Biden's actions fell under a much stricter Federal Records Act, which has very, very tough criminal penalties. Yet nothing happens to Crooked Joe. Nothing happened. Have you heard anything about the big search for his documents? No, only me. Most infamously of all, Hillary Clinton set up an illegal private server in her basement. You never heard this story. With the deliberate intention of violating public information laws so she could hide her pay-for-play scandals at the Clinton foundations or whatever. Hillary stored vast quantities of classified and sensitive information on her illicit server.
Water.
Some of it happened to leak. It leaked into Anthony Weiner's computer. Remember Anthony Weiner? Into his computer. You don't want to be on his computer.
Okay, we can.
And all of it was illegal because thankfully
Well,
she was never president. She didn't.
so
have
we're
the
going to
powers
say goodnight to
declassify.
everyone, and we ask you to continue to watch the president as they sing happy birthday to him.
She
And
didn't have
tomorrow
the
night we
powers to
will catch up,
declassify. It's a big difference,
as
and
well
neither
as,
did Joe.
tomorrow
You know,
at
Joe
3
didn't
o'clock
have
on
your mind.
WABCRadio.com, and tomorrow night we'll catch up here with you on
It's a little
Twitter,
bit
your favorite
cooler than it was.
social
It's pretty
media
hot out
is,
here.
Twitter,
Thank you. Happy
Getter,
birthday. Happy birthday. Great birthday.
Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. You pick it out. Twitch. We'll be back with
Nice
you on the
birthday,
feed.
isn't it?
We'll do analysis of what he says and some of the other things that are coming out tomorrow. God bless you, and God bless America.
Nice birthday. Wonderful birthday. They were saying happy birthday. I was with Eric and Laura, the kids. Happy birthday, Grandpa. Happy. And I said, oh, great. I just got charged with, they want 400 years approximately. If you add them all up, a fake 400 years. Oh, thank you, darling. That's so nice. It's a wonderful birthday. And we're going to make it into the greatest birthday of all. We'll make it into the greatest of all. When caught, Hillary then deleted and acid washed. Nobody does that because of the expense, but it's pretty conclusive. 33,000 emails in defiance of a congressional subpoena. Already launched. The subpoena was there, and she decided to delete, acid wash, and then smash and destroy her cell phones with a hammer. And then they say, I participated in obstruction? Now think of it. That's called obstruction. There's never been obstruction as grave as that. She did this in the face of everything, and yet nobody did anything about it. The FBI and the DOJ protected her, did not issue subpoenas, did not use a grand jury, did not execute search warrants, and then the corrupt head of the FBI, James Comey, declared no reasonable prosecutor would bring a case. Can you believe it? And that was just one of many items. Hillary Clinton broke the law, and she didn't get indicted. Joe Biden broke the law, and in many other ways we're finding out, and so far has not gotten indicted. I did everything right and they indicted me. But you know, we're serving as a great example in the case of Bill Clinton's national security advisor. Remember that? Sandy Berger. He was caught stealing classified documents from the National Archives, very big ones, very important ones, by stuffing them in his pants. That's pretty. And putting them also in his socks. And he destroyed them and cut the tape with scissors, cut them all up. What Berger did was highly illegal, but he was given nothing, no jail time, nothing happened. There are countless other examples. Bill Clinton, who I happen to like, hard to believe, right? Before I did this, I was actually quite friendly with him. Nice guy. They should have used him a little bit more as an advisor on the 2016 election. He said, you know, you better get to Wisconsin, you're going to lose. No, we're not. You better get to Michigan, you're going to lose. No, we're not. They did. Bill Clinton lost the nuclear codes, and absolutely nothing was done about it. He lost the nuclear codes. The George W. Bush White House lost 22 million emails, a record. NARA cannot assure complete transfer of any of the Bush records. A document shredding truck was spotted on the way to Dick Cheney's house. Can you imagine? Hillary Clinton took hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of furniture, china, flatware, rugs, and more from the White House, and she wasn't prosecuted. How about that one? She took the furniture and the china. How about if Trump did that? You think Trump would have a little problem? The horrific violations of my rights by crooked Joe Biden's weaponized Department of Injustice are unthinkable. It's unthinkable what's happened. So bad for our country. Democrats all, they lawlessly pierced my attorney-client privilege with lawyers. What they did to lawyers, what they have done to our lawyers, all of our lawyers, they've done things that were absolutely horrible and unthinkable. The leaking has been unbelievable and highly illegal. They leak. We've learned more about, from the Washington Post, New York Times, about the DOJ's boxes hoax. It's a boxes hoax. Than from prosecutors themselves. We want to read about it. You pick up the Washington Post, which is not doing well, or you pick up the New York Times. But they'll do better now because of these things. You know, this is the only way they survive, but they'll end up dying. But it's not supposed to be that way. We don't want to learn from the Times. We don't want to learn from leaks. We want to learn from the people we're supposed to learn from. It's like a leaking sieve in Washington. But we learned nothing about the Biden bribery scheme or special counsel Robert Hur's investigation. Robert Hur is doing the Biden investigation. He's a very respected, very nice person. Very nice person. Mine's not such a nice person. Mine's a deranged lunatic, which are many times the magnitude of ours in both number and severity. That's the prosecutor that they gave. He has found nothing. He totally exonerated Mike Pence. I'm happy about that. Mike did nothing wrong, but he happened to have classified documents in his house. But they exonerated him, and Biden is a different story. I mean, so much. You have to really think about what I said. As a senator, he took all of those documents. It's unprecedented. The prosecutor in the case, I will call it our case, is a thug. I've named him Deranged Jack Smith. I wonder what his name used to be, Jack Smith. It sounds so innocent, doesn't it? Jack Smith. What's his name? Jack Smith. He's a very nice man. He's a behind-the-scenes guy, but his record is absolutely atrocious. He does political hit jobs. He's been known to viciously arrest a certain governor. You know the governor, Bob McDonnell of Virginia, and absolutely ruined his life and the life of his family. All these wonderful family members, I knew them, only to have the case overturned 8-0 by the Supreme Court. He destroyed that man and he destroyed that family. And by the way, I will tell you, I'm here and I love you all, and we can take it. But what these thugs have done to my family is a disgrace. I will tell you that. I say it to all of the fake news because there's a lot of it back there. What they did to my family and that young man right there, he's answered more subpoenas than any human being in the history of the world. And you know what? They have nothing after all of those subpoenas. Literally thousands of them. Congress, fake counsels, Mueller report, all of this. All he did is answer subpoenas all the time. At least he's become very experienced at that. Congratulations. But Eric is fantastic, and what he and Don and Ivanka and the whole group, that's what they've gone through, and these are serious people. These are serious people, but what he's done to my family, what they have done to my family is horrible. He also tried to railroad John Edwards on a completely bogus legal theory that didn't hold up in court. It's no wonder this raging lunatic was shipped off to The Hague to prosecute war criminals using globalist tribunals, not beholden to the Constitution or the rule of law. Two things Jack Smith clearly disdains. You take a look at this guy, he looks like a thug. But then I watched him make a speech the other day, and he was trembling because it wasn't his territory. He feels much safer in the inner sanctums of the Department of Injustice, where he can be in his room and scream at people. He's a raging and uncontrolled Trump hater, as is his wife, who also happened to be the producer of that Michelle Obama puff piece. It was total puff piece. This is the guy I've got. Don't forget, this persecution is being done by the same weaponized agencies that for 7 years have been running illegal psychological warfare campaigns against the American people, much as if they were trying to destabilize a foreign country. From the Russia hoax to the no collusion Mueller witch hunt to impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, the 51 lying intelligence offers. How about them? They said it's Russia disinformation, and they knew it wasn't, which made about, according to some of the great pollsters that are right here, made from anywhere from a 10 to 17-point difference. And yet we still got more votes than any sitting president in history in the second election. And we actually did much better in the second election than we did in the first election. The fake dossier, paid for by the Democrats. How about the fake dossier? Remember that one? You think that was easy to go home and say, "Hello, darling, how are you?" when they read about that? It wasn't easy at all. Spying on my campaign. We caught them spying on my campaign. The FBI, Twitter files, and so much more. It's all been a battle of disinformation, one thing after the other, and all to protect the radical left misfits. It's also no coincidence that these charges against me came down the very same day. Evidence revealed Joe Biden took a $5 million bribe from Ukraine. Took a $5 million bribe. But the FBI and the Justice Department don't even want to talk about it. They showed something on television tonight. It had zero time on the three major networks, zero. But my impeachment had almost all the time. I think I had 351 minutes. They had no minutes. Okay? I think a lot of people are going to vote. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to vote. I will tell you, I just left Miami, and I've never seen love in the streets like that. I've never seen it. We've seen a lot of love. I've never seen love like that, because they know what we all go through. They know what we've gone through, and they see it, and they're smart. And, you know, many of those people coming from Cuba, Venezuela, other countries, they've seen this happening to their countries. I used to say that the United States, if it keeps going this way, it's going to be Venezuela on steroids. And now we're buying oil from Venezuela. Can you believe it? We have more liquid gold under our feet than any other nation, but we're buying tar from Venezuela, and we're refining it in Houston, the dirtiest, worst oil probably anywhere in the world, and we're refining it. So you can imagine what's going up in the air, and our beautiful stuff we're not taking out of the ground and making a lot of money and paying off debt and reducing taxes still further, which we were in the process of doing. They want to distract from the real espionage and the real crime, so let's use President Trump to do so. Let's go out and let's indict President Trump so they don't talk about the $5 million bribe. Just yesterday, Senator Grassley revealed that the Burisma executive who allegedly paid the bribe reportedly has Crooked Joe on tape. They have 17 tapes, I understand. He must be a nice guy to deal with, right? The guy from Burisma, nice company, they got him and Hunter on 17 different tapes, supposedly. But the FBI isn't showing them. Remember, they impeached me for asking a simple question about Biden's corrupt dealings in Ukraine, and now they see that once again, I was right. I was totally right. Joe Biden and the radical left can take foreign bribes and be totally protected. Republicans all, you must finally get tough. You've got to get tough. You got to get tough, and you got to show them. When you arrest your leading political opponent, we no longer have a democracy. When people are allowed to pour through our open borders and our elections are rigged, our country is in very serious trouble. When inflation is allowed to rage, when energy independence and dominance, we had independence and dominance. We were going to be soon very, very dominant. Within 6 months, we were going to dominate the whole world with energy, make a fortune. We were going to be paying off debt and lowering taxes at a level that nobody's ever seen, and they came in and they ended it. But when that's taken away from us, when interest rates and taxes spiral upward in an uncontrolled way, when murderers are allowed to roam, these are horrible killers, murderers are allowed to roam the streets of our Democrat-run cities unchecked, but the incompetent district attorney in New York indicts Trump for a crime that everybody agrees, every pundit, everybody, there is no crime. But murderers go out and nobody ever even comes and knocks on their door, and they know they're there, and they know their rooms, and they know their locations, and they're roaming our cities all over. And some of them are coming in right now through our borders. But then you have a nation that, as we are, is in serious, serious decline. We have a nation in serious decline. If the communists get away with this, it won't stop with me. They will not hesitate to ramp up their persecution of Christians, pro-life activists, parents attending school board meetings, and even future Republican candidates, which they do. We must end it permanently, and we must end it immediately. Now that the seal, so important, is broken. The seal is broken by what they've done. They should never have done this. This was an unwritten rule. You just don't, unless it's really bad. But you just don't. But the seal is now broken. In addition to closing the border and removing all of the criminal elements that have illegally invaded our country, making America energy independent and even dominant again, and immediately ending the war between Russia and Ukraine. I'll have it ended in 24 hours. I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States of America, Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family. Name a special prosecutor. And all others involved with the destruction of our elections, our borders, and our country itself. They're destroying our country. And when I'm reelected, and we will get reelected, we have no choice. We're not going to have a country anymore. I will totally obliterate the deep state. We will obliterate the deep state. And we know who they are. I know exactly who they are. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. It's very simple. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. They want you silent. And I am the only one that can save this nation because you know they're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving. On November 5th, 2024, justice will be done. We will take back our country, and we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you.